March 1917. Starving rioters go on strike and cause mass chaos in Petrograd, Russia. The rioters not only call for food, but also for a new political regime. The council called a Soviet, toppled the Tsar, and forced him to abdicate. This would be the spark of the Russian Revolution. In the October of 1917, Vladimir Lenin and his supporters, the Bolsheviks, were brought to power under the established liberalist government and faced several complications. They signed a peace treaty with Germany that gave up parts of Western Russia in order to withdraw from World War I. However, this treaty was nullified with the Germans' loss. The Germans lost control of the newly acquired Russian territories through the Treaty of Versailles, signed to end World War I. Russia was not represented at the Versailles Agreement due to its withdrawal from the war.
It's important to remember that the new Russian nation had initially begun with a liberalist government modeled after those of Western Europe. However, the government failed to meet the expectations of the resident peasant majority. They maintained the war effort, which left great public discontent and economic discomfort. The fact was that much of the peasantry supported the overthrowing of the liberal government by the Bolsheviks. Therefore, it was relatively easy for their new regime to enforce many of the early decisions made by Lenin's new government.
The second problem for the new Russian Republic was the issue of internal political disagreements. Political rivals threatened Lenin and his supporters. Those who still believed in the Tsar's regime resisted Lenin's authority. As a measure to limit the political and social power of dissidents, Lenin shut down the parliament and replaced it with a Bolshevik Congress of the Soviets. By monopolizing the government, Lenin was able to control virtually all stages of the government.
The thing is, Vladimir Lenin was a part of the Bolsheviks, which were later renamed the Russian Communist Party. If you weren't a Bolshevik, you weren't a communist. And if you weren't a communist, you were against Lenin. Although he didn't murder his rivals, he secured his path to power by removing his political rivals from the race to achieve leadership. Those who opposed the communists looked to the West for help. Britain, the United States, France, and Japan all sent troops to counter the Bolsheviks' rise, but they later were pulled back.
The third problem faced by the new republic was the issue of internal uprisings. Generals, peasants, and others held many of these uprisings. The communist leadership within Russia fixed key foundation issues within Russia. A new and powerful military was raised, and able generals were recruited. They were called the Red Army. This was an early beneficiary of two ongoing sources of strength of communist Russia: a willingness to use people of humble background but great ability, and an ability to inspire mass loyalty in the name of a brighter communist future. Economic disarray was reduced in 1921 when Lenin issued his new economic policy, aka NEP. The NEP promised the rights of free actions for small business people and peasant landowners. The NEP also helped the food production increase, and as time went on, Russia began to gradually shift from liberalism to communism, as the Communist Party would take over Russia.
By 1923, after the chaos calmed down, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics was officially recognized. The Supreme Soviet was created as the USSR's equivalent of the parliament, which signifies the development of the communist government. However, competitions in elections were prohibited, so the Communist Party could easily manipulate the Supreme Soviet, rendering it useless.
This experimental era of the USSR ended in 1927 when Joseph Stalin came to power, succeeding Lenin after Lenin's disease took his life.